Money on the sidelines, people laid off, problems to be solved. These are often reasons why people start up new companies. I caught up with Wayne Miller, Executive Director of the Venture Center out of Little Rock, to discuss whether or not now is a good time to be starting a new company. Wayne, good to be with you. Thank you for joining us. First question out of the gate now. Is it a good time to be starting a startup company in the middle of a COVID 19 pandemic?
Hey, thanks, Roby, and thanks for having me on this morning. I think it's an interesting time. There are clearly some opportunities that are arising out of this COVID-19 crisis. I think if we just sort of take a look around at what historically have been uh, technologies that people have been slow to adopt, let's take a look at telemedicine right now. What a great example of how a technology that's been really sitting in the background for some period of time, and there's been challenges with it, with adoption due to obviously a number of issues, but we've actually helped to relax some of the regulatory requirements around this technology. And as you and I were talking earlier today, necessity is the mother of invention, and we're seeing that sort of adoption occur. We're seeing similar things in banking, right? I think some of this is demographic, right, as it relates to age and location in terms of these things. But digital applications for things like remote deposit or new account opening, or how we're dealing with investments and wealth and so forth. We also suspect that as a result of this, we recognize a large percentage of our population does live paycheck to paycheck. We're seeing that is the evidence of that has never been greater than it is today with this crisis and what's happened to small business in our country and business as a whole. But we think we'll see some interesting technologies and results that are coming from a focus on helping with things like financial wellness and so forth. So adoption of some delivery and service options that we hadn't really thought about quite as deeply before. I think the boomers are always kind of quick to order a pizza, but now they're getting their groceries too. So I think there is an opportunity here without question.
You talk constantly with people who are in the venture capital world, who are in the startup investment world. What are they telling you about the current environment? What does the money say?
Great question. It's interesting. Actually, yesterday we're currently in a recruiting campaign right now for our next financial technology accelerator with FIS, kind of coming down the home stretch for that, which we will likely begin virtually this year. But we've been on the phone quite a bit with venture capitalists. The outreach, in fact, lately has seemed to increase a bit. Not so much from the angel community, although we do see some good things happening in Arkansas there with this central Arkansas Angels Network. Last night, in fact, 25 people on that call listening to a couple of pitches. So there's clearly an interest there. But from a venture capital perspective, rather, it's very clear that these VCs do have capital, they have funds, they have money that they want to deploy. I would suggest that some of them are looking for some bargains. I think there's going to be some issues as it relates to valuation. I think that there's going to be some failures where they're going to be able to pick up assets and people perhaps a little bit more effectively. So there is money out there, and there are investments being made. The other thing I think is the venture community has been pretty decent in how to instruct some of these early stage companies that have a limited amount of financial runway, how to kind of keep their powder dry and what they should be doing right now, in regard to what's happening with this crisis.
You mentioned health and medicine earlier. You mentioned banking and finance as well. What are some other business areas where you think there might be some opportunities that would be ripe for someone to start up a new company in a particular space?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. There's a three-letter acronym now that I'll use, and you'll know what it is. It's called WFH, right? I didn't know what that was a week ago, but I guess that's work from home now, right? So one of the questions that I think is coming out is how do we help people be more effective, more productive, and do the right things from the standpoint of working at home. So I think there are some opportunities for businesses there, from everything from health and wellness and exercising, that sort of thing, to how we establish desks in home offices, how we work with our families who are present, et cetera. So I think there's some things there. Listen, there's some crazy ideas out there. Remember, you probably remember this as I did. There was actually a point in time where we used to go to the drive-in movie theater, right? So there's an idea for you that might come back in a big way. Gaming and sports. I think there's some interesting opportunities there. We are all thirsty to see athletics and to see competitive sports. How are we going to make that experience better virtually? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm confident there's people out there working on it. Casinos need us to attend in order for them to make money. Virtual gaming has been something that's been pretty interesting and actually has had some significant returns for people who have made investments there. But will technologies also further support that and see that industry increase? I think we also have to question education right now. I've talked to you about this before. I think education is ripe for technological adventure, I think is probably the best word, as opposed to venture. And what I mean by that is, we teach everybody the same, right? But we all learn differently. And I always have believed that technology will help us make that better for the different ways in which we learn. But we're really having to build that airplane while we're flying it right now in terms of getting these kids up to speed and keeping them educated and so forth, and putting together lesson plans and working with a variety of teleconferencing approaches, et cetera. So I think there's going to be some interesting progress that's made there that I'm hopeful will make these kids, keep them on track, both, not just the kids, but obviously from the standpoint of college and graduate school, et cetera. There's some real opportunity there. So those are some thoughts.
So where does one go to get started if they have some sort of idea germinating in their brain here, and this age of self-isolation and quarantine and social distancing? Where does one go to get started?
Well, that's I appreciate the softball there, and I'm going to take it. So obviously that's part of what we do at the Venture Center is, we want to be a place for people to start and give them a chance to be supported by the mentors, the networks, the methodologies, et cetera, that we have to give folks a place to start. And there's also additional entrepreneurial service organizations around the state, obviously Conductor, Startup Junkie, Innovate Arkansas, et cetera, that can also help provide some of that guidance. I think all of us in the ESO community right now and the entrepreneurial service organization right now have been very focused on trying to help the existing businesses. And whether that's getting through the EIDL and PPP loan process, or trying to give them some thinking about strategic approaches to what they should be doing on a day-to-day basis and how to manage their P&Ls and what have you. So we're all working hard to try to be helpful to our existing community and those that surround us. But, again, that doesn't mean we stop innovating. These are moments in time that create extraordinary innovations, just as you and I have been talking about today. So we would be always open to be helpful or to be directive to those folks if they want to give us a call or reach out to me via email, or Ashley or any of our team who can be helpful. We have obviously a number of programs that focus on this, that help with things like Lean Canvas. It's a great time to fail as well as succeed. We're going to try to do things with less resource. So getting to points of decision, pivoting, or inflection points and trying to develop or build a business. This is actually a great time to do that. There's a high there's a number of people that are coming available as a result of this. There is a downside obviously to what's happening, but it also is helping to create somewhat of an upside for others to some degree. So I think we have the advantage too as small companies to be more agile, and particularly with new ideas and so forth. So I think folks need to be careful. They need to be smart. We have some good tools that can be useful, and we look forward to helping those who want to take that, who want to be courageous enough to take that approach.
When homemade is too good to keep at home. Helping Arkansas business do business. Making better happen with First Security.
You'll find us at the end of a lot of long country roads, covering over 60% of the great state of Arkansas. Our 17 electric distribution cooperatives are working day and night to provide reliable, affordable power to over 500,000 homes, farms, and businesses, just like yours. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, your local energy partners.